Perfect. It looks like we're probably ready to go ahead and call the meeting of the subcommittee of the Committee on Local Government Finance for the Incline Village Improvement District to order. If we could please have roll call.
Miss Rackley?
Present.
Mr. Foley?
Present.
Mr. Scher? Mr. Scher?
Present. Sorry, I was muted.
Oh, that's okay.
Thank you. I'd like to just open with some opening remarks, if I could, please. So I'd just like to begin by saying thank you to the Department of Taxation, specifically Kelly Langley and Charlie Spurlock, for the work that they've done to keep this subcommittee informed by forwarding all correspondence that they have received, including comments from the public. This subcommittee has received comments from Judith Miller, Aaron Katz, and Cliff Dobler. That being said, prior to opening up for public comment, in the best interest of everyone's time, I would appreciate it that unless there's anything anyone would like to say that has not already been received and read by the subcommittee, to please keep your comments brief. And I would refer you to note 2 on the bottom of the agenda to please limit your comments to areas relevant to the authority of this subcommittee. Thank you. That being said, I think we can move on to public comment.
If anybody on the Zoom has public comment, please raise your hand or hit *9 if you're on the telephone. Anybody in the room who has public comment, please come up to the table at the front and push the button on the microphone.
Good morning, members of the subcommittee, staff. I wanted to thank Chair Rackley and other members of the subcommittee. My name's Judith Miller, for the record. Thank you for all your hard work trying to address the problems with IVGID's finances. Unfortunately, there were more problems than could be tackled in just a few weeks or even a few months. As the work progressed, new problems emerged. It wasn't just the audit and the Tyler implementation. The chart of accounts needed revision, as did the central services cost allocation plan. And the lack of system integration means inefficient manual processes must continue, creating a high risk of error as well as a risk of fraud. I believe that IVGID's facility fee is the underlying cause of many of the fiscal issues we are dealing with today. I have 2 points I'd like you to consider and bring to the attention of the committee. The first one I'll address now. The facility fees have enabled IVGID to acquire more than it can properly manage and maintain. As a result, I believe it violates 354-685 2Q, quote, "The local government has allowed its accounting system and recording of transactions to deteriorate to such an extent that it is not possible to measure accurately the results of operations or to ascertain the financial position of the local government without a reconstruction of transactions. You've already seen how IVGID is unable to keep track of its food and beverage operations. Our internal services fund has repeatedly had expenses exceed its revenues. At the 3/12/25 IVGID board meeting, IVGID's IT director, Mike Gove, acknowledged that the district's venue managers, not just food and beverage, lacked the data to accurately measure the performance of their commercial activities. He outlined a plan to integrate and replace various business systems, but it will take years and millions of dollars before these tasks can be completed. In the meantime, IVGID cannot reliably measure performance, leading to poor business decisions and creating a continued high risk of fraud. Every day these operations continue without proper monitoring, it increases potential loss and requires more subsidy by property owners. I believe these circumstances are concrete evidence it violates 354, 685, 2Q. Thank you, and I'll continue. Hopefully there'll be another public comment either at the item on the agenda or at the end. Thank you very much.
Madam Chair, for those of you on the Zoom, we do have some additional public comment coming to the table.
Thank you.
Can you hear me? Okay. Good morning. My name is Lynette Cardinale, a longtime resident of Incline Village, Nevada. I want to thank everyone today for meeting and Kelly Langley for informing me of the meeting and having a great conversation. I'd like my comments to be added to the agenda. I too wrote a letter, but was unaware that I had to add that I wanted that as a a message of communication. But however, I will discuss my concerns. I've been concerned for a long time about the dysfunctionality of the IVGID board, not only with the ones that have taken on this task, that is a present board, but in the past. And I'm concerned that there has been extension upon extension without proper representation in a meeting that we were told would happen sometime around February 28th. I am really concerned about the then not appointed GM, Mr. Harrison, that made the comment on a Zoom during the meeting that I publicly attended, that he felt it would be a shame for Incline to be put on fiscal watch. And I could not imagine that someone not affiliated with the community and not even appointed GM. It's not about touchy-feeling. It's about accountability and representation of the taxpayers that are being victimized by this, with our funds not being distributed quality-wise, and what accountability should maintain for a community such as Incline Village. In addition, we are looking at a kitchen that is going to cost millions of dollars, a bathroom renovation, and true, it needs to be done, long overdue. But these funds are being attributed right now when our auditing is not being transparent. It has not been completed and is not being to satisfactory, conducive efforts to the withstanding and accountability of our tax money being spent. We have a water system that has to be looked at that has not been done in decades. And to allow a board to continually distribute money and possibly raise rec fees to verify what should have been done a long time ago by community funding is unconscionable, especially to the working families that at least work there and live there and have to pay the rec fee for something for world tourism that we do not need right now as an institution and as a GID. So there are many that have my concerns that don't bother to come to the meetings. They don't want to have their face out there. They don't want to make comments on Facebook or Nextdoor or anyplace else. But their hopes and their things of a community that they once bought into has been subsidized by kicking the can down the road. And now our auditor, I see, has quit. And now we're looking for someone else. And this is dysfunctional thing that we cannot permit. Our tax money pays a lot into the contribution of Washoe County and for the implementation of things, not only for the benefit of the community, but for the residents that are taxpayers. So yes, there's many like me that are not in the forefront that feel the same way. And I would like to know that, is this board qualified, or are they wanting to put someone on fiscal watch that needs to be addressed and needs to be made accountable? This is very concerning to a lot of citizens. and thank you for your attention.
I would just like to repeat myself, if we could please keep public comment to 3 minutes and keep it relative to the authority of this subcommittee. Thank you.
Frank Wright. I live a citizen in Crystal Bay. I have been doing this a while. You people need to understand something. You're dealing with an agency that's out of control, an agency that has no idea how much money they have, where their money has gone, and it's been going on for quite a while. Our funds have been blown. They're disappearing. We don't have a board that understands that they're in trouble. They're spending money like a drunken sailor. They don't have. They're setting rates. They don't know what their budget is. Who in this state is going to take over and stop this? Who in this state has the authority to stop this? I believe we start with the Department of Taxation. The recreation fee is a false tax. It's an illegal tax. I get nothing for it. Absolutely nothing. Wouldn't it be nice if every city in the state of Nevada had the ability just to charge people money and not give them a thing for it? We have a board member who's sitting behind me who advocates for a huge, huge recreation fee. No reason for it. He just wants to collect the money so he can try to cover all the debts. They've been doing this for quite a while. There is no statutory limit as to how much they can charge us. This is an illegal fee, an illegal tax. You people have the ability to stop this. I understand that we've lost some more people from our finance department. One quit and one was fired. It's not getting any better. It's an absolute disaster. They need to be put on fiscal watch. You need to do your job and protect the citizens who live in Incline Village. Yes, you need to do something. I want to know who keeps giving these people an extension. I understand it's Miss Langley. About 14 years ago, I went to Miss Langley when she was working for the Department of Taxation and brought all these issues to her. Nothing happened. She wouldn't even talk to us. She wouldn't get back to us. And I understand now she's still here and she's still giving extensions to these people. How many extensions do you get? How many deadlines, absolute deadlines, do you ignore? It's got to come to an end. You have to do your job. Thank you.
Hello, my name is Aaron Katz, 18-year almost resident of Incline Village. My question is, what's the purpose of this meeting? No proposed action is agendized, not even recommendations to the committee as a whole. What's the purpose of the committee? Does it exist to counsel local governments to maneuver the Local Government Budget and Finance Act? Or does it exist to protect the public? If the former, we local residents are wasting our time here. If it's the latter, we've now opened the door to decades of wrongdoing, and it's time for the committee to act. If you are here for fact fighting, what more facts do you need to find? At the end of the day, IVGID is unable to properly manage the district. And if that's the net effect, there's a remedy. And I've pointed it out to the committee before, 318.515. And its financial affairs need to be taken over by the state. The public needs protection. IVGID can't find an auditor because word is out in the auditing community, we're bad news. So let the committee find an auditor on our behalf, because I'm confident if your auditor comes in he or she will not be driven by the dollars IVGID offers. A real auditor will tell the truth and will not pull any punches and reveal the real state of affairs, that the district is not in compliance with the NRS statutes and regulations. And the department will not allow the district to spend public monies on stupid contracts. And let me give you an example of one. This board just approved now nearly $1 million to design a beach cafeteria that looks like the grocery outlet in Incline Village that has a projected cost of over $12 million. And guess what? We don't have any money. So what are we wasting $1 million on design for? The Board of Trustees abdicates away all tasks to unelected staff who unilaterally determine their own outrageous compensation and benefits. We have a number of staff who have seasonal jobs, yet we pay them for 12 months and it's fully benefited. One operating account we have for all revenues and all expenses. So there's always money in the account to overspend rather than a separate account for like internal services. So they overspend without internal controls, without oversight. Then surprise, at the end of the year, they realize we've spent $2 million more than was budgeted. Okay. Thank you very much. I hope you'll lose something.
Is there any more public comment? Madam Chair, there are no more public comment.
Thank you. So I'd just like to say, and I do think that I speak for Jeffrey and Josh when I say this. When we were appointed to be on this subcommittee, I really looked at my role would be to help Incline Village, to share our combined nearly 90 years of experience in local government finance to help them. That is what I looked at as our job. We do not have the authority, the subcommittee does not have the authority to put them on fiscal watch. That's the full board of the Committee on Local Government Finance. So we are here in a more helpful, supportive role, and that's the way I've just personally looked at it. So we'll move on to item number 3, discussion regarding fiscal circumstances involving Incline Village Improvement District, including without limitation status of the fiscal year 2024 audit. And with that, I'd like to hear from the department first, please.
Good morning, Madam Chair. Just before we turn the matter over to Ms. Grauman, this is Yvonne Navarez-Goodson for the record. I just wanted to offer the committee 2 points of clarification. Today, our representative from the Attorney General's office was not able to join us, so I just wanted to make clear for the record and for the sake of transparency that we've been advised by the Nevada Attorney General's office that this subcommittee does not have the authority to quote unquote make recommendations to the full committee on local government finance. And instead, the purpose of today's subcommittee is to gather facts and collect information to bring back to the full committee that is scheduled to meet at the end of this month. And so that is what the purpose of today's meeting is. The committee members were made aware that there was an additional request for an extension to submit the audit, and that information was shared with these subcommittee members. So the purpose was to bring this body back together, to bring representatives from the district forward to explain to the subcommittee members why that audit was not filed and what the plan is going forward. And certainly we have our experts in local government finance here with the Department of Taxation, both Ms. Kelly Langley and Kelly Grauman, who are able to assist the subcommittee members in answering any questions. I also wanted to point out for the benefit of the subcommittee members, which I understand you are also aware, NRS 354.624 does in fact authorize the department to grant extensions on this audit. Of course, this subcommittee has been in place for a while now, has been monitoring what's been happening with this audit. from the district. And because we did get that additional request for the extension in response to the last time this subcommittee met, we believed that it was prudent to bring this issue back before the subcommittee in preparation for the full committee's meeting at the end of this month. With that, Madam Chair, thank you very much. I'd like to turn it now over to our department staff, both Kelly Langley and Kelly Graman. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Budget analyst Kelly Graman is available to provide an update. She is the budget analyst for Incline Village GID.
My name's Kelly Graman, budget analyst for Incline Village. We received a letter dated February 19th, 2025 for the 4th extension for the annual audit. The extension was approved on March 4th, and they were supposed to have March 25th their audit submitted to the board, and March 26th is submitted to the Department of Taxation. We're all disappointed that they were not able to get the audit done by the 4th extension due dates, but we have weekly meetings with IVGID where we discuss the progress of the audit in depth. And we did receive the 5th extension yesterday, and the following due dates are April 30th, 2025 to the board, and May 1st, 2025 to the Department of Taxation.
And for clarification, again, for the record, Kelly Langley, on this 5th extension, we have not yet provided an approval for that, but we did want to bring that to this committee for discussion as fact finding.
Thank you. So you, Kelly, you mentioned that you've had weekly meetings with IVGID. You felt that those were productive meetings?
Yes.
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 So, yeah, the 5th extension request was at the top of my list. I don't think we're ready to talk about that yet until we talk about something else that's kind of a big concern of mine, and that is that our tentative budgets are due on April 15th. And the cornerstone is the FY24 actuals, and where we don't have the audit yet, I'm concerned that that will impact being able to submit a tentative audit. And then the third item that I had on my list was the designation of an audit firm for FY25 and how that's going. So with those concerns stated, I'd like to open to Jeffrey or Josh to hear your comments.
Yes, thank you, Jeffrey Scher, for the record. That was my biggest concern, was the budget's due in 11 days. And if we don't have actuals, how are you going to be able to properly prepare the tentative budget moving forward? That was my biggest concern.
This is Josh Foley. I do share the same concerns as the other subcommittee members. You've stated it much more eloquently than I would have, so I just want to put that out there. The other thing that I do have concerns on the audit firm for this current fiscal year budget, I've reached out and talked to multiple auditors out there, and their concern isn't the state of the fiscal affairs of the Incline Village General Improvement District. Their concern is the challenge that they would get from all of the public who for decades, even when they were getting good audit reports, have been problematic for auditors. And so I just want everyone to be aware of those discussions. It's not that the Incline Village GID isn't looking for auditors. It's not that auditors aren't interested in providing the service to Incline Village GID, but the input that I'm getting is auditors don't want to deal with some of the challenges with the public that comes about at Incline Village General Improvement District. Besides that, I want to provide kudos to the other subcommittee members. I appreciate all the work that they're doing. The staff, the Incline Village GID, I think they're working on making progress, and I appreciate significantly what the Department of Taxation is doing on a regular basis, day in and day out on this. And that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you, Josh. I agree. I've heard the same thing about the challenges with the public. And I think we've seen that too as members on this committee. And that's why I really needed to start off by thanking the department, because I think they've done a fabulous job making for sure that we meet all of the open meeting law requirements and we do the job that was put before us. So thank you, Josh, for that comment. Because there are some great auditing firms right here, that in our state and just over the state line that are licensed in Nevada. And you're right, they have a concern. So valid. So Kelly, do you guys have anything more you want to add on these three topics before we ask Incline Village to respond?
Not at this time, Madam Chair. Incline Village does have some officers here and they would like to answer any questions the members may have.
That would be great. Thank you.
Oh. Good morning.
Yes.
This is Jessica O'Connell, Director of Finance for IVGID, for the record. Thank you for preparing this meeting. I'm going to go ahead and read my written statement so I don't ramble and I stay on point. And I also want to extend my appreciation for the subcommittee being available to help in assisting us with guidance in compliance with NRS as we go through these challenging times for IVGID. The finance department has undergone significant personnel changes over the past 2 months. During this time, I have been actively working to restructure the department, strengthen its capabilities, and enhance the services we provide to the district. Alongside our existing team, we are addressing outstanding projects, reassessing priorities to meet the most urgent needs while maintaining daily operations. As part of this process, we identified tasks previously believed to be completed. Our team is now addressing these issues and working diligently to ensure the department operates more efficiently and effectively. We appreciate your patience and support as we navigate these transitions. When I accepted the Director of Finance position, I was aware of some of the challenges IVGID faced. However, as often the case, full disclosure of issues was not possible until we began addressing the deficiencies. Many of the additional uncovered issues are being resolved promptly. Our collaboration with Davis Farr, our current auditor, Baker Tilly, a contracted CPA firm to assist, and IVGID staff to finalize the fiscal year 24 report is ongoing. Unfortunately, this task has taken longer than the deadline set forth by the state. Despite this, I remain committed to restoring IVGID's financial excellence with the goal of earning recognition once again for exceptional financial reporting. At this time, we are requesting an extension to ensure the completion of a finalized audit. And I'm going to turn over the microphone to Bob Harrison to discuss the auditor, looking for an auditor for fiscal year 25.
Thank you, Jess. This is Bob Harrison. I'm the general manager for Incline Village. With me is Mick Homan, who's one of our new trustees. And before I do that, I'd like to give Mick an opportunity to speak, and then I'll have a few comments and talk about the auditor.
Thanks, Bob. So for the record, Mick Homan, I'm a trustee for the committee. I'm also a member of the audit committee, and I am the treasurer for IVGID. Might be helpful just to provide a little bit about my background. I'm a CPA, I'm a CMA. I spent 12 years as an auditor working in public accounting for 2 of the largest accounting firms in the world. And then I spent most of the last 20 plus years in the controllership group for a global Fortune 50 company where I retired as senior vice president, chief accounting officer. So I've got just a little bit of expertise in some of the issues that we're facing. I'd start off by acknowledging, obviously, we have issues. We all know that our controls and our processes and the state of our financial reporting function isn't satisfactory. There's lots of causes for that going back a number of years. It was exacerbated in the last few years by a virtual complete turnover of our F&A staff. That was driven by a number of factors, and some of them have, you guys are well aware of. There was abusive behavior, micromanagement by individual trustees. We had a lack of overall leadership at the district caused by a revolving door of general managers and finance directors, and frankly, some abusive behavior and constant badgering by a small group of residents. Fiscal year audit, 23 audit fell victim to that. And unfortunately, I think we took the easy way out and just settled for a disclaimer rather than powering through and doing what should have been done, which was to force that through to completion. We let timing deadlines get in the way of what was right, what was best for the district and the state. As Jessica mentioned, there's been some pretty drastic changes over the last few months. We've got new leadership. We've got both the general manager and a director of finance who bring directly relevant experience to some of the issues that we're facing. We've got a board with directly relevant experience. We've got significant accounting, regulatory, financial reporting, and legal experience on that board. And that board's focused on rebuilding staff. It helps that we've got an incredible human resource person on our staff as well that's helping, on the board that's helping staff help us to rebuild the organization. As Jessica mentioned, we've had a lot of turnover even recently in the last couple of months. Ineffective staff are now gone, and they're being replaced with more qualified professionals, and we've supplemented that with consultants that bring incredible amount of experience to the table. So we're making measurable, significant progress. I think in one of our last meetings, Kelly mentioned that we've probably made more progress in the last few weeks than we've made in the prior 6 months combined, and that is attributable to Bob, Jessica, and their staff. But it's going to take time. Staff and board are determined to do the fixes and to complete the audit. It's absolutely in our best interest to get that done. I think allowing us to just throw up our hands, allow another deadline to get in the way, and force us to issue another disclaimer is in nobody's best interest. It's not in the district's best interest. It's not in its residents' best interest. It's not in the counties or the state's best interest. And frankly, as we've talked with Kelly and Kelly, we are better off to take the consequences of missing a deadline and forcing and taking the time to get the audit done and to get an opinion on the audit. The auditor situation has been addressed. We are in the last year of the contract, and the existing auditor won't stand for reappointment. I would like to acknowledge and to thank Josh for his comments. That is, the auditors have told us that that's caused in part by the constant abuse and threats that they're receiving from some of our residents. And yes, that is impacting our ability to find a new auditor, but we will endeavor to get that done. And again, getting a qualified opinion, getting an opinion will help with that. Staff is in contact with multiple firms, and we've had some promising conversations, but we'll just have to see how that plays out. So I would ask for the patience of the subcommittee and the full committee. We will continue to move forward. Staff and the board understands the issues. We are all 100% dedicated, motivated to fix the issues. One of the things that we as the board need to do is to filter out the noise and the misinformation and to focus on fixing the real issues and moving forward. And I think just some of the context on that misinformation, a lot of it is led by individuals who have repeatedly publicly stated that their end goal is to dissolve IVGID. They don't like it. Some of these individuals have fought us in court. They've been forced to pay us hundreds of thousands of dollars for multiple frivolous lawsuits. The mention of the illegal tax has come up again tonight. That has been, argued in front of the courts, and the courts have continued to rebut that argument. There's been misinformation about the state of our beach fund. We have no money. Well, in fact, we do. We've got probably somewhere in the neighborhood of 8 to 10 million in our beach fund. So we're well on our way to funding that project. So again, as a board, it's our responsibility to filter through that. I'm sure I'm not making any friends with the people sitting in the audience behind me, but I don't care. As a board member, it's my responsibility to do what's right for the district and to do what's right for the people that elected the board to do that. So we will continue to move forward, and we will continue to do what's right. Yes, it is incumbent upon you to make a decision as to whether or not you grant an exception. It's incumbent upon the full committee to decide whether or not you're ultimately going to place us on fiscal watch. But I can tell you as a board member, it will not change my focus, and it will not change staff's focus. We will continue to power through this to get the audit done, to put our financial house back in order, and to do what's right for the long-term viability and sustainability of the district. So thank you for your time, and I appreciate it.
Thank you, Trustee Homan. I just wanted to add a few items and then I'll talk about where we are with the auditor. So first and foremost, wanted to thank Mr. Foley for coming and speaking and doing some training with our trustees earlier this year. As you mentioned earlier, Ms. Goodson, this committee is here to help, and we have, our experience has been we've been getting help. We appreciate the support that the two Kellys have provided us on a weekly basis. In our regular meetings, we've gone through open items lists. We have one prepared today if the committee wants to look at that, and we're prepared to share where we're at. I do want to say I appreciate the comments today. Those individuals make up the rich tapestry of our community, and they are welcome to their opinion and their perspective. But I do believe when they said the community wants us to make some change and get this fixed, I think that's true. I think the three trustees that just ran for election, they won by 75% of the vote in our community. They want what happened with the previous board to be put into our rearview mirror and go forward in a way that's going to be representative and reflective of what we can accomplish in the organization. Jess here joined us in January as our new finance director. I joined the team at the end of January. Both of us have long experience in government. You can see, as was mentioned, Mr. Trustee Homan has a long history in accounting. We have another CPA that's on our board. We have a lawyer that is also on our board. So we have the expertise, I think, that exists now that we can move forward. And we have made significant, I think, progress over the last 2 to 3 months. Are we where we want to be? No. I mean, but we are committed to getting this fixed. And our first and foremost goal is to get an audit completed for 2024. We've been saying that consistently. I think our auditor is online. I'm not sure, but okay. And so we've done what's necessary, I believe, to take the right steps. So one, we've kind of cleaned up the staff over in the finance department. We'll be replacing 3 positions there over the next 30 to 60 days. Secondly, we got a new finance director who brings that long level of expertise to the process as well. And we've cleaned up a lot. We've been working with Tyler. We've expended the resources necessary to get the Munis system functional again. We've brought in Baker Tilly as a consultant to come in and assist us to go through the process. And we've added some additional work as we've had some transition with staff in the finance department as well. So to let you know, again, just to kind of finalize that first phase, we are committed to getting a completed audit. I think we made good progress. We just our enemy has been time, quite honestly, in this process, and we're doing what's necessary. We've already started our budget process. We have, I think, the framework and some of the resources necessary to allow the trustees to make good, solid decisions. We are on target for submitting the tentative budget here in May, was it May 14th or April 14th? Okay. Couldn't remember the date off the top of my head. So I think we are going to be in good position kind of going forward as we continue to work through these things. On our auditor, we've contacted approximately 24 firms. We got a good list from the staff here. We worked through all of those. We're hearing kind of three things. One, there's a shortage of capacity in the auditing community. So many of them said we can't take on another public client to get work done at that time. The second thing we've heard, and that's already been mentioned, so I won't beat a dead horse, but there are some challenges. Our current auditor has mentioned on several occasions that some of the communications that come from our general public have contributed to some of the delays and some of the challenges that they've had. And then thirdly, the disclaimer of opinion didn't help us. So, a couple of the firms that we've talked to said we need to go talk to underwriting or their risk management piece of their firm because we got to have audible books. And that disclaimer of opinion did not help us. So that's why it's, I think, very critical from our standpoint that we get this audit done, we get a good set of financials so we can, move forward into the future. Jess and I had an excellent conversation with one law firm, one auditing firm, and she was going to get back to us beginning of next week after she talked to her underwriting department to make sure, they were comfortable with bringing us on. So I know we've missed the 3:30 deadline. We thought we had an auditor on board who had previously worked with us, and then on the 26th of March, they notified us that they were not going to proceed to work with us again. So unfortunately, we've missed that kind of March 30th deadline, but we're hopeful within, very soon that we'll be able to have an auditor to appoint. So with that, we're open to questions. We appreciate all the help that you've provided in the past, and we look forward to continuing to partner with this subcommittee before we go to the primary committee here at the end of this month. Thank you. Yes.
If I could just add one, I know a couple of the subcommittee members have mentioned the concern about our ability to do a budget without having the audited financials. And yes, that is a valid concern. But we have had a number of public board meetings to discuss the budget already. And it's important to note that this will be an iterative process. We've kind of got a going in assumption as to what we think the final fund balances will be. And that will certainly inform it. But most of this budgeting has, in most cases, you kind of look at the prior year and then you just make adjustments. Staff is doing a good job of building this from the ground up. So we're not just relying on last year's actuals to build the current year budget. We're looking at more of a grounds up. These are the actual salaries that we need. This is a full listing of all the maintenance we need to do and so forth. So it is more of a zero-based budgeting, and staff will issue a preliminary budget, but importantly, we'll have time after that to complete the audit and to make sure that it's appropriately informed by the final numbers as well as the final fund balances, final cash and so forth in terms of affordability and the things that we want to do. So.
With that, thank you for our opportunity to speak to you today and answer any questions you have.
Thank you. So my first question is really towards the department. So it is definitely under your purview to grant the fifth extension if you so choose to. If you do that, how are everybody's feeling to be able to have that submitted by the end of April?
Madam Chair, was that a question to the department or a question to the local?
Well, really, I guess kind of both, because you mentioned you're having weekly meetings, so I'm sure that's on the top of your discussion list. So whoever would be best to answer.
Thank you, Madam Chair. For the record, Kelly Langley, Supervisor, Local Government Finance. The extension request that we've received has the dates for, isn't it? I want to provide you the correct dates. They would have the report filed to the local government on or before April 30th. And the report would be to the department on or before May 1st, the very following day. Our biggest concern is that I'm not sure there's any advantage, obviously, to not approve it. We do want an audit. I think that obviously is one factor, but then at the same time, we want it to have the qualified opinions as well.
Thank you, and I agree with that. So Jessica, Bob, how do you feel as things are going through? And I do see your auditor is on the call today. I don't know if she's comfortable commenting as well on that timeline.
I also have Baker Tilly, Noemi, who is the CPA that is really assisting with the audit and making sure the work papers and any open items that are addressed go through her. And she's available also to comment on where we're at. As mentioned in my opening statement, as we started, doing all the analytical work, things would surface. And so we're correcting pre-submitted work papers and items that come up. And we're hoping towards the end here that as far as audited adjusting journal entries will be minimal because we're doing a lot of those up front. I think I want to turn this over to really Noemi because she kind of, and Jennifer, they will most likely be able to kind of let you know where things are at and timeline if possible.
Hi, good morning. Can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi, good morning, everybody. My name is Noemi Barter. I'm a CPA, senior manager consultant with Baker Tilly. I was brought in the end of February to help IVGID complete their audit. And as you've heard, we've gone through their open item list, started at about 100 items, over 100 items, and we are down to about 17 of those. Of the 17, there are 5 we submitted yesterday, and there are 5 that really relate to the end, reviewing the financial statements, submitting last issuance items. With that, so even though we are very close to submitting everything to the auditors, there is a back and forth. We have, when we submit our reconciliations, our work papers, the auditors are coming back and finding things that we need to correct. So then there is a back and forth. So even dwindling down this open items, if I'm able to complete everything today and tomorrow, there is still a back and forth between the auditors that will happen. And we are hopeful that we can complete all of that back and forth, in the next 2 weeks so that the auditors can prepare a draft. We are working diligently to try to accommodate the deadlines that are put in front of us. As everybody's heard and well aware that we're accomplishing this myself in the last month, trying to get everything done. So I will let Jennifer Farr speak to the audit side and the progress on that side.
Good morning. This is Jennifer Farr. I'm the engagement partner on the audit, and I agree with a lot of the comments that are already stated today. From our standpoint, we're kind of the last piece, so everyone has to be able to get the numbers accurate before we can complete our audit and move forward with the financial statement. So we're still receiving adjusting journal entries, and know that we will be receiving more in the future. So I've said multiple times that the numbers need to stop moving before we can move forward. So at this point, it's not really a question for me about timeliness. It's a question of when the numbers will stop moving before we can move forward with the draft of the financial statements.
Thank you. I agree. I know my auditor, I work with her and we pick a date and that's the end. That we are not allowed to do any more entries that'll hit the trial balance past that date. So that would maybe be a suggestion, is you draw that line in the sand and give that date as well. Thank you. Sorry, I should have really thanked both you and Noemi for working with Jessica and the rest of the Incline Village GID crew. You know, we had our Committee on Local Government Finance meeting a few months back, and I think it was definitely the feeling of several members of the full committee to put IVGID on watch that day. And I was the one holdout because I really feel like Jessica and the new crew is trying tremendously hard to fix things that they did not create, and it just takes time. And so I really wanted to give them a chance. And I just want to say that I'm glad that the committee allowed us to give everybody a chance. The one thing I'm hearing from you though, Jennifer, is I'm getting, maybe I'm reading between the lines, but I'm kind of feeling like you don't think you'll be able to meet that April 30th day to present to the committee.
I don't think you're reading between the lines. I think I've said a couple times that once the numbers stop and we're comfortable with them, you can assume about a 3-week turnaround from us. And at this point, I don't know when the numbers are going to stop moving.
Thank you. Yeah, the 3-week timeline sounds pretty consistent in your field.
I would like to add to that. Can we set a date where the actual numbers stop moving, and whether an adjusting journal entry can be presented and we can move forward? I guess that's something that we'll have to work with Baker Tilly and Jennifer Farr regarding setting a date. But I really appreciate your comments and acknowledge all the hard work that we've all been putting towards correcting the financial situation with IVGID. And I think setting a date where this is the last submission, you know, whether it's correct or not, write it up and do the adjusting journal entry. And if there's correctional findings, then we'll address them then. So that way we can complete this audit. I think that's all I have to say, but thank you.
Gina, could I ask a question?
Yeah, absolutely. I was getting ready to turn that over to you and Josh. So go right ahead, Jeffrey. Thank you.
Thanks, Josh, if you don't mind. So my area of expertise is more on the budget side. So if we're looking for, if Ms. Farr is telling us that we need to go back, she needs 3 weeks. And we need to look at this June 1 then date for the final budget. And Kelly, I'll defer to you to help me as we go through this. Obviously, this budget has to go before the board for final approval because they have to sign off on this budget as well. So I know that the period is between May 15th, I believe, and May 31st, that they would have to meet as a board to be able to approve the final budget. So if they were to approve the final budget, let's just give them all the way till May 31 so you can submit it to Kelly by June 1 as you were. If they need to go back if the auditors need to go back, they need at least 3 weeks. You need to go back weeks from that to be able to put this budget together, which I would like to ask Jessica a little bit more detail as to where they are. The words mentioned by the general manager was that they're in the process. I'd like to get a little bit of idea because Kelly, I'd like to know that we're now coming up against another NRS deadline on not only April 15th, but more importantly, June 1, that they need to hit that deadline. I'm hearing the audit, and we've got to hit this deadline. They've got another deadline coming up that they're going to be required to meet, that depending on how one works, the other one then might come into violation. And I'm just wondering where we go from there and what kind of leeway we have with that, because one is dependent upon the other. And while I understand from the board member that they have some good numbers that they think that they can work with, the first step in reviewing that budget is tracing those numbers to a financial statement. So how can we do column one if we have nothing to trace to? Our column two, I'll give you column two that you can make some tentative estimates, but I don't know how you can do column three for April 15th and column four for June 1 without having those actuals in there. So I guess maybe if we could talk to Kelly first, if you could give us direction as to what happens on April 15th and June 1 if they don't meet those deadlines, and then maybe if Jessica could give us a little bit of understanding where they are in that process.
Thank you, Member Chair. During our weekly meetings that we've had with Incline Village GID, we have been emphasizing frequently at our weekly meetings that we need to be setting a date. We need to have a date at which the numbers stop changing. Obviously, we've heard their auditor, Jennifer Farr, express that, the numbers keep changing. And I realized that while those numbers are changing, she's really at a standstill. In regard to the budget, we were told that Baker Tilly has come in to help as a consultant with the audit, but that enabled Miss Jessica to focus more on the budget so that the budget would get done. I agree with you, Member Chair, that how do you start if you don't have the first column to go with? But I believe they know, I can't say exactly what those numbers are, but with pretty fine tuning, they know what those numbers are going to be, with the exception of if different accounts change. They don't have that many funds, so it shouldn't be complicated. But again, it shouldn't be complicated to get this audit done either. But numbers are changing, and they are focused very much on wanting to make it correct and ensure that the numbers are numbers that everyone can stand behind and know without a doubt that those numbers are correct. So my hope would be that if they can set, whether it's today or the end of the week, which is today, have those numbers stop changing, and then allow Jennifer Farr to be able to complete her audit, because it could take her 2 to 3 weeks. And if you wait till next week to change that, then you're really only giving her 2 weeks. You're putting her in a box again. And I think you need to allow her time to get comfortable so as to provide you the outcome that you want on the opinion. And then I'm very comfortable and confident that Jessica will be able to produce a budget, the tentative budget, by April 15th to the department. And then that final by June 1st. I believe that is why she wanted so badly to be able to focus on those dates. Will the numbers change from the tentative to the final? Obviously, I doubt if we'll have I'm not sure if we would have the final audit in order to look at that comparison. But we would do that as soon as we could. We would definitely have those before the final budget is submitted. Jessica?
Yes, thank you, Kelly. One thing I would like to mention is, yes, we need to set a date of when the numbers need to stop moving and move forward with adjusting audit journal entries. My approach on the budget is, first of all, I want to bring to everyone's attention that past history, the appropriations, the estimated revenues and the appropriations that were set for IVGID in the past, the appropriations really exceeded the estimated revenues by a large margin, which I'm not accustomed to seeing. The approach that I am taking with IVGID this year is, what does it take to keep the doors open and provide services that you are already providing to your residents? What are those estimated revenues? And then as we work towards finalizing the budget, the audit, yeah, obviously everything is tentative right now. We can then really address the issues of capital improvements, things that are we're implementing basically a triage, like what is a priority. If there's a staircase falling apart, yes, of course, that needs immediate attention. If it's a beach house that we want to build, of course, actually, that's not number one priority. We are taking those issues into consideration, but I feel very comfortable with the budget that we have prepared. We've had 4 workshops, and my communication to the district, to the staff is, right now we have to make sacrifices to remedy IVGID's financials. So when you're looking at your budgets, take a conservative approach. And as we all know, the economy is unstable right now as well. So we really need to put our conservative hats on right now and have a plan B, because costs are most likely going to be increasing. So maybe we will not be able to complete any CIP projects. We don't know that. But right now, what I can present and turn in is a tentative 4404 with estimated revenues and appropriations to keep the doors open at IVGID, bare minimum. And I say tentative because I know that we can then, once we finalize the audit, we can adjust any numbers before the final adoption of the budget. And from all the back and forth that we've been doing with Davis Farr and Baker Tilly, I feel confident that the numbers aren't that far off. But once again, they're moving numbers, so we can't really commit to them until we get financial statements, audited financial statements. But that's pretty much my view on fiscal year 26 budget.
Does that answer your question, Member Chair?
Let me think about it. Yeah, let's go to Josh first and please come back.
Member Foley, do you have comments or questions?
The only comment I have is I believe in the farmer's rule, which is farmer doesn't have to plow the same ground twice. And I think my committee members have done and the Department of Taxation have done a fantastic job of getting the entire field plowed. So I'm good. Thank you.
Okay,
Kelly.
so I thought I had a little bit more time. So let me ask you this, Kelly, if maybe you could, once that final budget goes through on June 1, and again, I apologize for putting this, but this is what's going to take us now into the next fiscal year and the issues obviously related to that. If I remember correctly, we had some problems in the past that they made changes to the budget that were not following what Department of Taxation rules were. If that budget is put in on June 1 and it is not isn't adequate, doesn't meet the needs, changes that occur, what are if maybe you could explain so we could have it out loud, what and how they could make changes to that budget after it is approved and submitted on June 1.
You Member Chair, in regard to the final budget being approved on June 1st, that's been submitted. After that, the only changes can be made to the majority of the accounts through an augmentation. The augmentation has to use necessary and approved resources as approved by the NAC. The NAC states that, they can augment their expenditures and increase them so long as they have the necessary funding. The biggest part of that is that you cannot use ending fund balances. So that budget as submitted would be what we would hold them to, with the exception of capital expenditures. They're allowed to use ending fund balance for that, but everything else, really, they would have to have additional funds coming in that had not been budgeted for so as to be able to complete the augmentation. As was done in, I think, 23, the department denied a budget augmentation because they were using any fund balances inappropriately. And I know that was prior to Jessica coming on board with Incline Village GID, and I believe she fully understands that. She has asked similar questions. Does that
Good.
answer your question, Member Share?
Yeah, I just wanted the clarification that the importance of obviously having good numbers to start with, and I put quotes around good numbers to start with, will allow us to give the flexibility necessary for FY 26, correct? 26, to be able to give them that flexibility to do what they need to do. But if those numbers, okay, I think that's what I'm just trying to get across, is that the importance of that.
I think also to kind of add to that, the importance and I believe that the board members understand it as well. In 23, the board members were approving expenditures, not understanding that those expenditures that were approved were not authorized because they were not using appropriate funds to fund that augmentation. Because the budget had been, or the augmentation had been denied back in 24 for the 23 budget, I believe they all know that. So
Very good, because
I
I
don't
had that.
anticipate that would happen.
Very good, because I had that conversation when I met with the finance staff, and Jessica, I don't remember the timing, whether you were part of it or was it when it was still with Vicky and Susan, but I wanted to make sure that they understood the augmentation process and the augmentation limitations. And that's really what the thing is the limitations that it will do. I've had some experience down here with some of the jurisdictions and the way that they budgeted, and they tied their hands, and it caused issues into 26. And I just want to, or it's the next fiscal year. So I want to make sure that you guys are aware of that, and not to tie your hands into 26 once everything shakes out, because we've got a real small window here. I don't know what the dates of your board meetings are and when the board is going to do it, but there's a public hearing obviously that happens in May, and you have to have the ability to make adjustments, because obviously it doesn't sound like the tentative budget is going to be as accurate as it could be. So obviously that puts more pressure on June 1 and the timing to be able to make adjustments that the board members want, that the public has the ability to speak on, and things like that. So I just, as long as they're all aware of that, then I'm comfortable as we proceed forward toward June 1. Thank you.
Member Share, one additional comment, and I believe Kelly Graham had mentioned it, and that is the current status of the 24 budget, 25 for the 25 budget is we have not received any augmentations for that budget. If there's any adjustments that needed to be made, that would be something that I would hope Jessica is keeping an eye on as well, not just focused on the upcoming budget, but the current budget as well.
And if any of those augmentations were to occur, is it their policy that they go before the board and have to get board approval for those augmentations, or does she have the authority to make those as necessary? I don't know what the procedures are.
No. Oh, okay. I'm not sure exactly as far as the IVGID policy goes for augmentations, which you read my mind, because as we are trying to finalize 24 and finish 26 budget, the next thing on my radar was where are we at in 25, and that's what I'll be looking at over the weekend and next week. I am familiarizing myself, and I do send constant emails, and I almost think that I send too many to Kelly regarding the interpretation of the NRS regarding augmentations, because I want to get it right. And I'm learning the differences between the enterprise augmentation process versus the general fund. And so, you know, I want to make sure that it's done correctly. I will be looking at that. I can't really speak to that right now, right off the cuff, but it is in my radar to review that. And as far as internally budget policy, I think if anything, we'll follow the purchasing policy with the authorizations of spending, but we definitely can set up a special board meeting, if there are some pretty material augmentations that need to be made. I also want to add that we've had 4 workshops, budget workshops, and I think that the trustees are well aware of where we're at. We've been getting really some positive feedback and concerns that they've had in the past and transparency. And so that has been communicated to IVGID leadership, and we're all on the same page as far as being transparent and being conservative, and also keeping in mind providing excellent customer service for our citizens and try to maintain some kind of normal service in the interim until we get back up on our feet. I think Trustee Holman would like to speak.
Yeah, Member Sher, you raise a very good question. I would just like to point out a couple of things. Despite the problems we are encountering over the last few years with the state of our financial reporting and controls and so forth, we came into this with a balance sheet and a liquidity position that would be the envy of any governmental agency, which is allowing us to weather this. We still have very significant reserves and liquidity, across our community service funds. We still have reserves and liquidity in our general fund and so forth. So yes, you make a good point. I think the unfortunate thing that happened last year was, in a rush, without good information, decisions were made that were not grounded in reality in terms of budget cuts and so forth, that were mandated and carried out by staff, that just weren't realistic. And as we head into this budget season, I think the board is more educated on the mistakes that were made in the past. But I think we will also come into this with a view, and due to some of the training that we received from this subcommittee a few months ago on the budget process, we will go into this both in terms of making sure that we have adequate contingency funds built in, and that will be informed in part by the revenue sources we've got, but it will also be informed by the beginning fund balances that we can tap into to get needed things that we were done. And again, we're afforded the ability to do that because of the strength of the balance sheet and liquidity position that we came into this with.
Okay. Kelly, if I could just, and I apologize, Chair, just one further question, just for clarification. If I remember correctly, when I used to do augmentations, I attach board agenda items. Is that required?
Yes, for an augmentation, it will require board approval, and that board approval needs to be done prior to the June 1st. We don't take augmentations after June 1st. So in May, that's something that Jessica will need to do, is to, if there's a need for any augmentations, that augmentation needs to be done in May.
And Kelly, if I may, I believe that the enterprise funds can be reported on the quarterly statement. Those do the enterprise and internal service funds, do they have to go to the board, or is that part of because I don't believe that the quarterly economic survey needs to be approved by the board, does it? But that's where they would identify if they did do an augmentation on those funds.
On the enterprise funds, you're correct. That would be on the QES. And the QES is filed 45 days after the end of each quarter. So those, although they will not require an augmentation, they do require, they don't require notice to the department, but they have to be notified and informed through the QES. You're correct.
Okay. So Jessica, I just wanted to make sure that, because there's been talk about these internal service funds and that want to make sure that there's the governmental funds and then there's the proprietary fund. So I just want to make sure that there's 2 different processes so that you're aware. And if not, at least I did the same thing. The Kelly I spoke with on a regular basis. So yeah, that would be great.
Yeah, thank you for bringing that up. And I know that the general fund operates completely differently than the enterprise, and I understand that. And as far as the, excuse me, the internal service fund, there's, I guess, interpretation of what an internal service fund, the difference between government and private accounting, and IVGID has a different policy for their internal service fund, which involves utility, enterprise, resources and expenditures funneling through the internal service fund versus a centralized service cost, also known as capital cost allocation. I mean, not capital cost allocation plan, that just solely involves the general fund. Usually internal service funds in the government world includes the cost allocation plan. IVGID operates a little differently. It's separated. So I think that there's just the awareness out there is not clear, but I have reviewed it. And I have involved Baker Tilly and Jennifer Farr, and we're all on the same page with that. Unfortunately, in the past, the policy states that the revenues and expenses should balance out, and it was the failure of finance to keep up with those journal entries. And so we are correcting that. So moving forward, we stay in balance in that fund.
I just wanted to add to on the augmentation piece. So one of the reasons that our finance director has been in contact with the two Kellys is that we want to make sure we 100% get that right. We don't want to replay a 2023. If any changes to our policy, and we can review that with DOT in terms of the process to get that done, we're happy to make those adjustments, take that to the board as needed, have that conversation there and get that approved. So we make sure we're, straight on in terms of the process and we don't run into any problems.
Okay. So this item, number 3, is a discussion item and no action. So I think we've had some great discussion here this morning, and I appreciate everybody's input. Is there any other discussion that needs to take place, or if either of the other members need to hear on anything else? Okay, hearing none, we'll move on to item 4 for possible action to schedule the date and review the agenda topics for the next meeting. I don't feel comfortable setting a date right now, knowing that we have CLGF, the full committee, on April 29th. Thoughts on that? Could we see how things go on the 29th and then talk about setting a meeting?
Yeah,
Madam Chair, I think that would be, that's fine if the other members are comfortable with that.
Yeah, I'm comfortable. It doesn't sound like anything is going to occur in the meantime, so I think we're best if we wait till the 29th.
I agree. And it's possible after the 29th, we won't have a subcommittee meeting.
Let's hope for that. Okay, so we will not set a date at this time. So the next item is public comment. But before we go to that, I just want to reiterate that we are here to help. If any of you at Incline Village, Jessica, especially budgets, Jeff is he's our guru. Reach out to Jeffrey. And so is Josh. We're all here to help. And being a public servant for 30 however many years has been one of the highest honors in my entire life. And we're not always going to make the public happy. There's going to be times when they're upset. But I just say this to the public that's there today. Thank you again for your interest in your GID. Thank you for being involved in your community. And I just plead to you right now to support them. I think they are trying very, very hard, and they need your support now more than ever. So that being said, I'll move on to public comment.
If anybody on the Zoom has public comment, please raise your hand or hit *9 if you're on the telephone. Anybody in the room, please come up to the front table.
Hello again, Lynette Cardinale. I would like these on the record, my comments on the record. It is unfortunate that this committee that has met, especially the ones behind me from Incline, had to resort to marginalizing, being dismissive and demeaning, and causing the community that wants to speak up their mind, that have been here as long as I have in Incline since 1992, considered as fringe dandruff of the community that needs to sit down and shut up. I'm not one to do that. And I would like to make it known that I did not, just as Mr. Homan wanted to distance himself from the pack when he was running for trustee because of the unpopularity of it, that arrogance does not demean anybody in wanting to speak out, so far as much as he was not even endorsed by the women of the Republican Party of Incline Village. And so I am not a fringe dandruff of the community. I act independently. And as far as my credentials are, I have a BA, an MA, and administrative credentials in education. I was a CEO over 3,000 students in a high school of a very diversified community, including their parents, students, and the community in which I served. And so I am also well adept in manipulative communication. May I also add that as an American citizen, that this country was found on dissension, and the people that stood up, such as Sarah Schmitz, as far as I'm concerned, was the first Doge that wanted an audit to disclose and open up all of the dysfunctionality of the board and past present boards, which has gotten us into this situation that we are in today. And so with that saying, I do hope that all these things are taken into consideration, that people act independently and concerned about their community. And therefore, I agree that things need to be done, but having things brought out, such as kitchens and things of that manner, and not our water system, and not the things that should be not addressed in raising the rec fee, should not be an accommodation to past boards' failures. Thank you very much.
Judith Miller for the record. It was rather a surprising revelation to hear the committee is not here to make recommendations to the subcommittee is not here to make recommendations to the full committee. I was at the meeting where Chair Levitt did make this statement that this subcommittee was supposed to come back with recommendations as to whether the district should be put on fiscal watch or whatever other recommendations they might want to make. And I do want to get back to the facility fee, though, because I believe it hasn't really been mentioned in this. It's the one integral part of the budget that hasn't been discussed by the board. And as you know, it's the one fee that is not even limited. So whatever the staff will come up with, or the board will come up with in needs for operational subsidies or capital projects, the facility fee can easily fill in that void. The facility fee is an unfair tax. It's not a fee. This imposed non-exchange transaction circumvents the statutory limits on property taxes and the normal process of a bond election and ad valorem taxes to support capital projects. Rather than making a profit at its assortment of poorly managed commercial recreation operations, they nearly all operate at a loss, forcing an undue burden on district property owners. If it were a valid fee, then why doesn't the governing body of every city, county, political subdivision in the state pass such a fee to fund whatever they choose? It's Robin Hood in reverse. IVGID's fees rob from the poor to benefit the rich. This regressive fee may be no problem for the country club set, who benefits enormously, but it's a heavy burden for the less wealthy who derive little or no benefit. We do still have many working class families in Incline who can't afford golf clubs, let alone a $3,000 season pass. 52% of our elementary school children are Hispanic. Many of these children live in the roughly 3,000 older, smaller condo units in the town center. So the parents who work in various service industry jobs can be close to the district's largest employer, the Hyatt. Some are homeowners, some rent. Tenants don't necessarily get any resident discounts. Instead, the owner must sign a form for IVGID, assigning privileges to them. Only 5 individuals per parcel can get the golf discounts. So owners often retain these privileges for themselves. Annually, nearly a third of, or 2 million of the facility, 7 million, has been used not for free or low-cost public recreation like you might expect, but to subsidize things like that season pass that brings the average cost of $250 retail round of golf to about $51 for our few dozen wealthier property owners. Every dollar of loss at IVGID's recreational venues is made up by the facility fee. Please share these and other findings of my neighbors with the executive director. Protect our taxpayers. That's your duty too, not just to instruct, especially those in lower income brackets. We ask that she recommend placing an item on the CLGF agenda for the April 29 meeting for a hearing to determine if a severe financial emergency exists and to consider the underlying cause, IVGID's tax in fees clothing. Thank you very much.
Frank Wright. Sitting directly behind me is $500,000. The general manager that was hired after firing a general manager that was there for 1 month represents $500,000 of our money. Mr. Holman doesn't mind spending our money. He doesn't care about the community. He doesn't care about the people that are living there. They just spent $200,000 to give fire service, forest service to the fire department to do defensible space mitigation. That's not our responsibility. He told them to come back in a couple months and we'll give you 300,000 more. They gave $700,000 to design a building that they can't build. This committee is supposed to be looking at the fiscal behavior of Incline. They're in a mess. It's been going on for quite a while. You're supposed to make recommendations, I guess. Today I was kind of shocked to find out that you're not supposed to give recommendations. I don't know what you're supposed to do. A tax that's assessed to one building, one parcel, and a tax that's assessed across the street to one parcel and many buildings. Unequal is not the way you tax in the state of Nevada or in the United States. 422 units in one parcel fee. 76 units, one parcel, 76 parcel fees. It happens to be all the poor people are in those 76. Their rents go up by $200,000, $300,000, $400 a month because of the way they assess this parcel fee. It's a tax. You're the Department of Taxation. a branch of it. You're in charge of taxation in the state of Nevada. Why do you allow this to go on? Why do you not address these issues? Why is it up to the homeowners to try to come here and try to straighten all this stuff out? Mr. Holman finds this to be an inconvenience. He finds us to be the problem with him not being able to get a budget in order. Something's wrong here. Is the state of Nevada that screwed up? You can't take care of simple problems? This is a sewer district. How hard is it to get your books in order? 3 years now of budgets that haven't been prepared and met deadlines? What do you people do? I'm sorry, I have to ask that question. When are you going to take the reins here and stop this garbage? When are you going to hold Incline accountable for all the misdeeds they've done? We're residents. It's our money. You need to do your jobs. Thank you.
Thank you, Aaron Katz again. As I was listening to Mr. Wright, all I kept thinking about is that old adage, the quickest way to get out of a hole is stop digging. And yet you won't let IVGID staff stop digging. Oh, we're hoping. Oh, it's better if they come up with some sort of an audit. Let's give them another extension, more digging, more overspending, more going into debt, more pressure on our rec fee. I don't know if the committee just doesn't care or it doesn't get it. You got to get to a date. That's it. And then I hear, oh, well, gee, we are not in compliance with the NRS about an audit for 23. We're not in compliance for the designation of an auditor. Now we're concerned about, gee, are we going to have a budget for the next year in the 15th? Why do you care? Let them default. What's the consequence? There's no consequence. Or you make a consequence. And all this talk about you're going to have a budget, you're not going to have a budget. The writing's already on the wall. The district has no ability to raise revenues to cover its expenses unless it comes up with phony revenue. And the phony revenue is the central services cost allocation applied to the general fund. They haven't even started on it. And it's due in 9 days. You think it's going to come then? I'm telling you right now, it won't. And let's talk about fact finding here. Fact, I've brought to your attention the problem with borrowing from the Internal Services Fund. That's a violation entitling Fiscal Watch. I've brought to the attention, Mr. Dobler did, about we're not in compliance with loans with the state revolving fund. That's another basis for going on Fiscal Watch. You've got all the ability there to put them on Fiscal Watch, and the public needs the protection of the state. Please protect us. Recommend Fiscal Watch. Thank you.
Is there any further public comment at this time? Seeing none, Madam Chair.
Thank you. So thank you, everybody, for your time today. And this will lead us to the final item on the agenda for adjournment. So we'll adjourn this meeting at 11:04 a.m. Thank you again for your time today.
Thank you.